Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty, episode 75. And you can just go stick it, Walter.
Well, you stick it.
No, you stick it.
You stick it.
Can you stick it better than I can stick it? Do you have real good sticky stuff?
I have good sticky stuff.
Okay, we're going to talk about our sticky stuff in a moment. But right now, we're just going to do a couple of quickie highlights of what we've been working on. I finished my Gnome Antics quilt, and I am going to show that and talk about it more extensively next week on the Idiot Quilter. So I'm not going to show it to you today. Just have to keep you in suspenders, as they say. I'm sticking it to you. And I'm working now on the two block of the month classes. One block of the month class, that quilt's called Lakeside. I've talked about it before, but I haven't really shown you much about it. But we're getting to the point now where I think I will be able to show you again on Idiot Quilter next week how far we're getting, because we're into the 7th month now of this, and it's starting to take shape as it's starting to look more than just like a lot of little pieces. So that's kind of exciting. And that's an online class I'm taking with Donna, the hostess with the mostest from Ultimate Sewing. I'm also taking another class with her called Color Splash, and it's a block of the month as well, and it's just started. And I did talk about that last week on Idiot Quilter, showed you the pattern. It's applique. Lots and lots of applique. So that's, I don't think it's going to be too difficult. We went over the class. Donna, for the first class, went through the pattern with us and gave us tips, tricks, and other things that we should know about doing applique. And we're just doing raw edge fusible. But the beauty of this technique with what we've got for fabric is it's all batiks. And batiks don't fray. So that's a good thing. I don't want to get into needle turn. I've never tried it. Don't know if I'd like it. I maybe should give it a try one day. Never say never, right? So that's called Color Splash. And then on Monday, I'm taking an in-person class with Donna again. Do you think Donna and I have something going on? In fact, Donna said today when we did the Zoom for the one class, we had a Zoom yesterday for the other class, and said we have to stop meeting like this, Donna, really. But anyways, it's a one block wonder panel. And I did talk about that on the Idiot Quilter a week or two ago, and I'll show you and tell you more about that as I get into the class. Okay, so what's the update on your projects?
I haven't done anything else yet.
War cry of Walter. I haven't done anything. Well, you did get some stuff done in shirts, and we showed that on
Yeah.
Walter
Actually,
Live.
I gotta get done. I gotta moving with that.
Yeah, well, okay. Next week we start fall officially on the 21st. I'll start.
It'll be shirts for next year.
Yeah, don't forget we had them. It'll be new to us.
Yeah.
So speaking of new to us, we got something new today. It just arrived. Get yours out. Pull yours out. You show me yours, I'll show you mine. And we got new iPhones. These are the iPhone 14 Pros.
Yeah,
yes.
Mine's purple.
Mine is silver. But he has he's got a case for his, but I ordered a special colored case, and it's not coming until Monday. So right now I'm caseless. But look at all these cameras, and I've been playing with them, and they're really good. And the sound on this little sucker.
Well,
see,
really we had iPhone 10s before that, and so I kept putting off buying a new one. But I said when about halfway through the year, my battery started to go on it, and I said, well, I'm going to wait till the 14s come out.
How come yours has got a big, or that's on your case? Oh, did you put your sticker on?
No, that came with the case.
Oh, because we got a sticker too. An
did
sticker.
we?
Yeah, but I didn't put it on anything yet. It's like this one.
Oh, okay.
A little smaller. But I haven't like you. So that's your. Oh, because that's your ring, right? For
the MagSafe.
MagSafe. I don't have a ring on the back of mine. So is that printed on your case?
Yeah, it is. It's part of the case.
Well, that must be what'll be on mine too when I get it. But mine's jazzy colors on it, so that's why I got the silver instead. But purple's okay.
I think the purple's nice. It's very subtle.
Oh, my phone did something. It's letting me. Oh,
you can change your wallpaper.
Yeah, but I have Kitty. I have Kitty on my wallpaper. I've always had Kitty on my wallpaper, even though Kitty's been gone for 7 years. No, wait, what year? Yeah, 2015. Yeah. Oh well, okay. Don't dwell on the past. So yeah, we're all excited. We got them all set up now, and they were relatively easy to set up. Didn't take too long either to transfer all of our stuff from our old phone over to it. It's all pretty automatic. So yeah.
Yeah, they seem to do a really good job of being able to. I've never had a an Android phone. I really, well, that's not true. I had really cheapo phones before I went into the Apple world,
Hmm.
and then about around 2006, that's when I got my first iPhone. And
Mm.
then it's sort of been, this is my third one, so it's sort of been iPhone ever since.
Yeah.
But they really do seem to do a nice job of trying to get to move your stuff, make it easy for you to move your stuff from one
Yeah.
phone to the other.
There's some other fancier features on this version of it too, with the wallpaper and the home screen and everything like that. Um, that I don't understand yet. So there's something, was it some kind of
It's
roller
like a
bar?
learning curve. No, what? No, this part here is supposed to widen and do stuff for you.
Oh, okay. Well, mine doesn't seem to do anything at the moment, so I guess I
No,
don't have it set up for it, but whatever. I'll have to check that out. Fun, fun, fun. New technology to learn. Okay, and I did an interview today, a really interesting interview, which you are not going to see until the 27th of September, because I have an interview before that that's happening with a friend of mine who's Dana. So those of you that have been on Craft and Chat before or Pop Up So Day probably know who Dana is. She lives in Regina. And I've been bugging her for a long time to do an interview because Dana is a very interesting person and she's a great quilter. And so finally she relented, gave in to me. You know, squeaky wheel gets the oil. And I did an interview with her earlier this week, and it's going to go up on Tuesday. And then the week after that, I'm going to have the interview I did today. And I did it with a man from Australia called Kendall. His name is Kendall Taylor. Kendall has a YouTube channel called Quilting Basics. If you do search on that, Quilting Basics or Kendall Taylor, you will find him. He does a lot of sort of sew-alongs with Pat Sloan patterns, but he also runs a store in Australia, like an online store, fabric store. And I'm going to put all that information. He gave it all to me today. I'll put that all in, not today's show notes. It'll go in the show notes from the Idiot Quilter episode that I'll introduce him in on the 27th of September. But really interesting guy, makes a lot of quilts. He's also been sewing before he started to quilt. And he just sent me pictures of these wedding dresses he made for his sister's wedding. He made her wedding dress and all the bridesmaids' wedding dress, and they're phenomenal. Like, this man knows what he's doing. Well, he used to sew costumes for theater as well. And he also did outfits for drag queens too. So there you go. Um, and well, someone's got to dress uh, drag queens because most of them can't dress themselves. That's for darn sure. Anyways, I've seen, anyways. But anyway, so that'll be interesting coming up. And of course, we are off to Kawartha Quilting tomorrow to do the anticipated tour and interview with Zach and show the store. And that will probably be next week's So Chatty episode. So I'm anticipating for it next week. So tune in to So Chatty a week from today, and you should be able to go with us on the store tour of one of my favorite stores, Kawartha Quilting. Um, okay, so you saw by the title and our little comments at the beginning, calling it Just Stick It, we thought we'd talk about adhesives that are used in quilting and sewing because there's a ton of them out there. Now, I'll admit right off the bat, all these ones that we're going to talk about, I have tried them. I don't use any of them on a regular basis, really, maybe one or two, because I don't tend to use glue when I'm quilting. Now, I know some quilters swear by it for keeping seams down or for tricky pieces, keeping them in alignment and everything like that. I personally would rather clip or pin, but that's just me. Walter uses some adhesives as well, but not maybe as many as in quilting. So we thought we'd go through them. Some of them you may be aware of, some of them you may not be. And we're just going to talk about what we know about them and in the case of where we use them, you know, what some of the pitfalls might be as well. So I'm going to start off with one that this one is my top choice. It's by a Canadian company called Acorn, and it's the Acorn Precision uh, Seam Alignment Glue. Now they have a whole system of products that they use for with quilting. They have a pressing solution, which I love. I love it so much, I bought it by the gallon. If you've got a stubborn seam, you've heard me say this before, you spray it with a little bit of this. It's a pressing solution. That seam will lay flat without any effort whatsoever. It's brilliant. Whatever's in it, I don't know, but it's great. But that's not what we're talking about right now. I'm talking about their glue, Seam Align Glue. And if you go and do a YouTube search, I think you'll find demonstrations of this product. It is, if you've got a seam that it's very important you keep it in absolute alignment, but you know it's going to shift when you get it under the needle, and you don't want to use pins or clips on it, you can use a few drops of this. And yes, it's only a few drops. You just dot it along your seam at, you know, 1/4 inch intervals or whatever, depending on the size of your seam, and hit it with your iron for a few seconds, a dry iron, and that sucker will not move until you want to move it. Now it is repositionable. It pulls apart easy enough, but it's got enough hold that it's not going to separate when it's under your needle. And it all washes out of your fabric as well. So it's a really good product. Now, do you use any kind of like these kind of glues when you're sewing?
Yeah, I use a product called
Don't talk about that yet. We're not.
I use a product where I use which we'll talk about later, that helps me will stick certain seams together temporarily for sewing.
Yeah. But what I mean, do you use any liquid glue?
No, I don't use any
No,
liquid glues.
nothing. Has anything ever come up where there's been people suggest you do?
No,
No.
we've never even talked about it. But actually, when I'm looking at this now, maybe I should give that a try and see, as compared to the stuff that I use, to see how well it works.
Yeah.
Because I've never really used the Acorn and never really thought about it until we were just talking about
Yeah.
it
See, you
now.
learn something new every day. Well, I got tons of it. I don't use it very often. In fact, I seldom use it, but that's just because I prefer pins and uh, clips, especially Wonder Clips. I use Wonder Clips for everything. So another product that I'm sure everybody is familiar with, let me get this straight, is called Fabric Fuse. And it's been around for 100 years. It's a liquid glue. It looks like white glue. And it's for, you know, it's a permanent bond, I think. Now, there are different brands of, or different makes of this. Yeah, this one is, it says Fabric Fuse Strong and Permanent. I think they have a temporary one as well. But if you've got something that you know you want to stick down permanently and it won't wash out, then Fabric Fuse is one that you can use. And you can heat set it as well. Now, it's made by a company called Thermal Web. And Thermal Web is a big name in all kinds of adhesives for all kinds of uses. They do ones for fabric, like Fabric Fuse, but I use Thermal Fuse for paper crafting. They have like foils and things that, you know, if you want to put on a card, they make that. They make a system whereby you can lay down some of their special glue, and then you can take gold leaf and it'll just stick to it, or transfer. All kinds of, they make all kinds of products uh, for all kinds of different types of crafting. But Fabric Fuse is one, I have a bottle of it. I don't use it often, but I have used it. I especially have used it with embroidery sometimes. Uh, like for example, if you were cutting out an embroidery piece and you had a satin stitch and you accidentally clipped one of the threads in the satin stitch, guess what happens? Your satin stitch will start to unravel all around your piece. Well, I have used a little Fabric Fuse on that and to hold it, and it works for holding that thread down. Now you have to get it right when you first clip it before it really starts to unravel, but it will work for that. Not the best thing is not to clip your threads, but in a pinch, that helps. And there's lots of other uses for it too. So it's pretty good. And you can set it with your iron as well. It'll dry very fast. Oh, and another place that I use Fabric Fuse is I use it when I'm doing freestanding lace embroidery and you have eyelets and buttons that hold the pieces together. If you put a little drop of that on the end of the button part that goes through the eyelet, it just secures it, because sometimes those pieces are under tension and they will pull apart. Now they're designed that way so you can pull them apart when you're done with them if it's a seasonal thing and lay them flat to store. But I don't do that. I hit them with that glue and those little suckers don't come apart no matter what. Now, this is one you probably use though. Fray check.
Yeah, once in a while.
Yeah, well, fray check, I think most people are familiar with fray check. It is a clear glue and it does what it says it does. If you've got some fabric edges that are fraying, you put a little of this on the edges of it and it will, and let it dry. It dries relatively quickly and you don't have to worry about your fabric
fraying.
fray. Yeah, afraid not.
Afraid not.
Afraid not.
I have on rare occasion used it. I don't tend to use it very often, but that's usually when I do an oops and
An oops. You make an oops?
and I'm a little worried about the edge fraying a little bit, or if I don't catch the seam properly or something, and it's in a spot where it's hard to get to, I may add a little fray check just to make sure it doesn't cause a problem.
Well, another place where you can use it too is if you make napkins or anything that you're doing like a rolled hem or something like that on your serger. And you know, the serger has a long chain piece that comes out at the end of your fabric. And you usually, now you can take that and you can tuck it in with a needle into the other ones, like cut off some of it, but leave half an inch or something and pull it through. But that's a pain in the butt. And Shirley at Ultimate Sewing, she's the one that told me this technique. She said, cut the chain off near the end of the corner of the napkin, but then put a little fray check on it and that'll keep it secure and it doesn't wash out. So, and I've done that on most of the napkins that I've ever made. And yep. And I've washed those napkins hundreds of times. So we have had no problem with it whatsoever. But it's an old product. It's been around for 100 years, pretty much. It's by Dritz. And by the way, most of these pictures, I just picked them up so you could see the product from Amazon, but there's other places you can get all these products. You don't have to get them from Amazon. I'm just throwing them up there because they have a good picture of the product rather than trying to balance it in my hand and show it to you. So here's where we come to one that Walter uses, and everybody has probably heard of Steam a Seam. Now, Steam a Seam is something we use it as quilters when you're doing applique because it is basically a glue that you iron onto your fabric to hold it down on another piece of fabric.
Yeah, but usually that Steam a Seam comes in a big
roll.
Big roll,
yeah. Or you buy it by the meter or
and
whatever.
you cut a piece off,
yeah.
right?
But yours,
yeah, I use a Steam a Seam as well, but it comes in. You can buy it in as in the Notions area of most sewing stores, especially stores that do garments, and it comes in a roll of about a quarter of an inch wide, or you can actually get it in half an inch wide, but I'm not sure why you would use that. But the stuff I have is this. I use it's a quarter of an inch wide. It comes in a roll. And here, I'll just take it out for a sec. Comes in a roll like this, right? Quarter of an inch wide. And what's nice, if anybody hasn't used Steam a Seam, and like Steve said, with the larger versions of Steam a Seam, it has it's a little bit sticky on one side, and on the other side it has a piece of paper on it. So what you do is you lay it against your seam all the way down, like if I do the bottom hem of a shirt. I usually fold the fabric over twice, and you can pin it and then sew it. But what I do is I Steam a Seam it at the bottom, and so it's stuck together nicely, and then I just sew over top of it so that it's nice and even and I don't have any problems with it. And what you do is you iron it on because there's a paper back to it. You put the sticky side down and you iron it on, and it sticks to your fabric, and then you peel the backing off and you fold your fabric over it and then steam it down again, and your fabric quilts in place. Now, what else it's handy for is if you're inserting zippers, right? You take your zipper and you put the steam seam on one side of it and stick your zipper down, and it sticks down really nice for you to sew it in place. So you don't have to deal with pins and stuff like that when you're sewing a zipper in. It's also good for, like, I've done it on button bands to hold the button band down before I sew it. And any seams that you think is going to be a problem to pin and sew, you can use it for that. And that's what actually, it came as a suggestion from Ron Collins in Saskatoon, that he's an expert sewer, clothing sewer, and he said this is a someone that isn't very or is it more of a novice sewer. It helps you, it's a helping hand for you to get your seams straight and things like that. So I use it quite frequently, and I always get, there's two versions of it. There's Steam a Seam Light, and Steam a Seam Light is a little bit of a lighter um, uh, sticky stuff, so that it
Won't gum up your needle, right?
no, none of the steam seams never gum up your needle, but there's two versions of it. There's a light version and a regular version. The light version's a little easier to apply than the regular version. I think the regular version will give you a permanent bond, whereas this one is more repositionable. So I always like to make sure I get the light version, because the other version, paper backing sticks to it really bad and it's hard to get off, so you might get frustrated. But this is the one to get. If you get it, you can buy it from Amazon. You can buy it at your local fabric store. But I use this all the time for when I'm sewing clothing. It makes it a really easy to do some of the seams and stuff.
Um, the way, not so much with Steam-A-Seam, but there's other products like Steam-A-Seam, like Heat and Bond and stuff like that. And some of those will gum up your needle.
Yeah, Heat and Bond makes a product too that they come in different colors for whatever their product is, and they have a light version too that's a yellow. Now they claim they don't gum up your needles, but I don't know if that's true or not.
It's not, they
Uh,
do.
the Steam Seam product, right? It also will work on stretchy material, so it will stretch along with your material as well. So I mean, it's not just on non-stretch material that you can use it on. So it actually is really good.
And actually, you can use it as a quilter as well if you're doing applique and you're doing like flowers and you have stems and you have little thin pieces of fabric. It's easier to use that than to try and cut it on a roll of regular
Yeah, because it
steam.
also comes on a big wide roll, sort of looks like aluminum foil, if you want to call it. If, it's like a wide roll or saran wrap or
Yeah.
whatever. And people use it a lot for appliques because you can cut out shapes and stuff like
Well,
that.
that's how
Yeah,
we
yeah,
do applique,
yeah,
like for what they call raw edge applique.
yeah.
Now, does that wash out?
Um, I think the light may lose its stickiness after a little while.
Of course, by then you've already sewn
But
down the piece, so it doesn't
I
matter.
always I'm just using it as a temporary solution to stick down my seams before I sew it.
Well, the other thing about it, Walter said, is repositionable. That's the beauty of Steam-A-Seam, period, no matter what type you're using or what size you're using. Like if you're doing applique, you you only take the paper, you draw your design on the paper side of the Steam-A-Seam. They have instructions, it all comes with instructions, it's easy to do. And you fuse that to your fabric, but then you peel off the paper on the other side once you have it on the fabric. And when you lay down your applique piece on wherever you're doing it, you can, as long as you don't apply heat to it, you can pick it back up and reposition it, and it'll keep it in place. Like it won't slide all over everywhere. So once you've got everything down the way you want it, then you can hit it with the iron, and then you can't move it at that.
Yeah,
So
if you do hit it with the iron the second time to stick things down, and you make a mistake, it can cause you a problem
You're
to try it.
screwed. So beware.
I have, depending on what material you're using, I have been able to remove it. But if it's cotton or sometimes a stretch material, it's sometimes very difficult to get it off. And if you accidentally, which I have done, accidentally picked up a little piece of it by accident and fused it into the middle of the shirt, and then you cannot get it off.
What if you were to use something like
I tried everything.
acetone?
Actually, what I ended up doing was moving the pocket over top of where.
Oh, okay. Well, there's one. I was just thinking, I wonder if acetone would do it.
No, I tried
Of
that.
course, acetone might
It
take the
it
color out of your
takes the
shirt.
color out of your shirt
So
too.
there you
So
go.
yeah.
New fabric. So user beware of that. There was something else I was going to say about steam a seam. Maybe not. Maybe we covered it all.
Yeah, like I mean, it comes in two versions, okay? It comes in the light version, which I recommend, and it comes in a regular version that does not say light on the box, right? And I don't recommend this one.
But why do they have it then?
It gives you a more permanent bond.
Hmm.
It will, it may not wash out, right?
No.
But it's actually very difficult to work with.
Hmm.
The paper backing on it it's difficult to peel it off.
No.
And the reason I know I accidentally bought this, and I've got a drawer full of them on one side. They're for emergency use only.
No. Okay. So good to know about that. All right. So back to talking about temporary types of adhesive. So now we get into sort of the spray adhesive. Now there's a lot of controversy about this. This is basting spray. And there's all kinds of different manufacturers of it, but this is by Odif, ODIF from France. It's a very popular one. It's the one that I used to use a lot of, to the point where I was buying it by the case when I was basting my quilts because I was a spray baster. Now, before everybody starts expressing their opinions about spray basting, because there's a lot of them out there, a lot of people don't like using sprays for basting because they say it goes, if you're doing, you should always use it outside. No, no, I've never used it outside. I've always used it indoors. And people say, well, yeah, but it goes through the air and it settles on your furniture and it sticks to everything. No, it might if you do this, like an aerosol can, air freshener. Oh, look, sprays it. Yeah, but you only have it about 8 inches away from the
Well,
surface
then
of your
maybe those
quilt.
people are not using it properly.
Well, this is what I think. But I've heard a number of people say this. This is a common complaint with this. The other thing is people don't want to breathe it in. Well, don't stand so close. Don't be.
Hold your breath when you're using
It
it.
doesn't give off any fumes. Now, there's going to be people argue with me. They're the ones that are so sensitive to fragrances and they're so sensitive to sprays and they have allergies and that. And yes, if you've got all those kind of problems, then I don't recommend you use something like this. You know you best. Okay. But I had great success with it. It worked really well. The only problem I had with spray basting quilts was basting the quilts in the first place that way. And I did eventually, before I got Lucy, I was doing a combination of spray basting and pinning for security, because the one problem with the spray basting is when you're working on a domestic machine and you're quilting and something bunches up on the back of your quilt and you don't realize it, and you may not have sewn through that part yet, but the spray glue is very hard to release from that. So you want to be really sure with it. It's temporary, but it's got a strong hold to it. So I don't use it anymore because I don't need to. I use it occasionally if I'm doing a table runner and I'm going to quilt it on my domestic machine. Just I lightly give it a little light spray to hold my sandwich together better. Now, will it gum up your needle? No, not 505. There are other basting sprays that might do that. And just as a fun tip here, which you probably already know, if your needle gets gummed up because you've been using any kind of adhesive, whether it be steam a seam or spray adhesive or whatever you're using, little rubbing alcohol on a cotton ball up and down on your needle will clean it right off. And you can actually buy non-stick needles. I have never bought one. I'm not sure. I think they're Teflon coated or something. I don't know how well they work. I've never used one. Maybe some of you have, and you can say so in the comments below how you found those. But 505, that one I thought was the best out of. I tried several other brands, but the Otif 505 was one that I really liked. And I also was buying it from Montville. And it was a lot cheaper on Montville than, oh, if you go to the F store, Fabricland, they will charge you over $30 for a can of this crap. On Montville, I was paying under 15 for it. And quilt stores too. It can be expensive in quilt stores. It can be over $20 for a can of it. And there's a fair amount in it, but usually I could get maybe 2 quilts out of one can if I was lucky with it. But that's not my problem anymore. I don't need to use it. So the next thing on our list is this. This is not really an adhesive, although it has adhesive properties. It's not meant to glue anything down, but what it's meant to do is keep your rulers from sliding across your fabric. You give this a light little spray on the back of your ruler. It's like those little rubber grips you can get. But you don't have to get the rubber grips, and it lasts for a long time and you can see through it. Now, it will make your acrylic ruler a little cloudy, but it doesn't come off on your fabric, and it will hold your fabric down. If you've got a ruler that doesn't have any gripping system on it, then this stuff works really well. The trick with this is, and you can see here, Amazon has it, that's an outrageous price. I did not pay $38.40 for Grippy. I paid probably half that amount for it, and I forget where I got it at the time. One can, they're not a huge can, one can will last you forever because you only do a light spray. Let it wait a minute for it to sort of dry, and away you go. So if you've got rulers that are slipping all over the place and you don't want to get those little circles, or some people put a little piece of sandpaper on them, but you can't see through the sandpaper. And those little grips you can buy too actually raise your ruler up just a little bit off the surface too. So this stuff's great if you can get your hands on it. It isn't easy to find. Check your quilt store. I think my local quilt store's got it in stock right now. I think the last time I looked for it there, they had some of it. But it's good stuff. Okay, now we've got the cheapo glues. And what are they? Oops, that's not one of the cheapo glues. Where's my picture of the cheapo glues? Yes, we'll come back to those other two in a minute. Elmers, all-purpose washable glue sticks. Work on everything. If you're doing hexies, you can use this. As opposed to basting your fabric down on your little form, on the little template, I've used this. It works great, and it's washable, and it does. It comes out. I have a steady supply of this stuff, but I use it more or less not for quilting or sewing. I use it on my 3D printer bed to keep my things stuck down to it. But I have used it in sewing as well. So just like that Acorn precision seam align glue, you can use glue stick as well. Now, mind you, it's a little messier to use than the seam align glue. And it is going to leave a purple mark on your fabric, which disappears, and it washes right out. But it works. So in a pinch, not a bad thing to have. If you've got kids, you've got Elmer's glue sticks. And another type of glue stick, you can find these by different manufacturers of quilting products. This one's the June Taylor fabric glue stick. I have never used it, but look at the price of it. And from what I understand, it works just the same as the Elmers. The Elmers, you got how many? 6? No, 8. An 8 count for $9.99 on Amazon. You get one for $14.22. Yeah, you're not paying for anything special here. It's the same kind of thing as Elmer's glue, but you're paying for the name. Similarly,
Or you're paying for it as it makes it sound like it's only for fabric.
Yeah. And then there's Quilter Select. Now, Quilter Select this is Alex Anderson and Ricky Tim's company. And Quilter Select brand is their brand. And they have a lot of really quality things. And I don't imagine this is any less quality than anything else they have, but I've never used it. But the one thing I'm showing here is this one is designed to get onto little seams, 1/4 inch seams,
Hmm.
whereas the glue stick isn't. That's why using the Elmer's washable glue is messy because it's too wide. It's about a 1/2 inch
Hmm.
wide with this. But you're paying for that too. And that's American price on that one. This was not on Amazon. I had to go to the quiltshow.com, their store on there, and it's $10.99 American for this. I have never used it. It may be available though, and it probably is in certain quilt stores as well, because more and more quilt stores seem to be carrying the Quilter Select products. So there's lots to choose from. You have to experiment with what works for you. Now, back to a couple of other things that technically are not glues, but I thought I'd mention them here. These are fabric stabilizers. They'll make your fabric stiff. Terrell Magic is one you've probably heard of before because it's very, very popular. And essentially what you do is you spray this stuff onto a piece of fabric, let it dry, and it stiffens the fabric. And you can use several sprayings of it depending on how stiff you want the fabric to go. I have used it. It's okay. The fabric though isn't as stiff as, well, the reason I bought it was I want to put my fabric through my printer. Okay? Yes, you can do that. Now some people take their fabric and stick it to a piece of freezer paper and pull it through, and that works as well. Um, but what I found with this is I could actually put a piece of fabric. Well, I was hoping I'd actually be able to make the fabric stiff enough so it'd be stiff like a piece of paper and go through my printer. Did it work? No, it was too soft. But if I wanted fabric that had body to it, because for example, if I was making fabric flowers or something, this stuff works well for that. But the one I like better, and it's cheaper, is this one, Stiffy. Stiffy, you can buy it at Michael's stores here, probably at Joann's in the States. You can get it online. It is white glue. It's made by the company Plaid. Plaid makes another product you probably have heard of called Mod Podge. They have all kinds of them. Same company, they make Stiffy. Well, essentially what Stiffy is white glue. What's that white glue called? PVA or
Yeah,
something
something like
like
that.
that?
Yeah.
That's been watered down. That essentially is what Mod Podge is too. So this is just another name for Mod Podge. But it works. It dries clear.
I mean, you probably wouldn't recommend getting Mod Podge and watering it down.
No. Well,
Like,
Mod Podge, no, what I meant watered down is white glue watered down is
yeah,
Mod Podge.
yeah,
And this is what the Stiffy is
yeah.
too. And how do I know that? Because I've done it. I've taken Elmer's white glue, put it in a little container, added some water on it, made it kind of thin, uh, and brushed it on, and it works with it. So Stiffy works really well because it does make your fabric really stiff enough that you could put it through your printer. Now, before you go out there and you try this and you jam up your printer, I don't recommend it. Um, there's too many things that could go wrong. It depends on your printer. It depends on the ink you're using. It also, you don't want any little threads hanging, like any fraying threads. There's where your fray check comes in on your fabric when you put it through your printer, because some of those little strings could get caught on one of the rollers and you're screwed. Okay. So I don't recommend putting fabric through a printer unless you know for sure that it can handle it or whatever. However, the Stiffy can be used for other things too. I've made a sculpture using Stiffy on with fabric um, because it holds really, really well. But yes, you can make your own. Just get yourself a bottle of white glue and some water and mix up your own version of it. So those are all the different types of glue, adhesives, and stiffeners that we've used. Can't think of anything else to ever use. I don't use them that often. Um, oh, another thing I was going to say, I was thinking about with your steam-a-seam, your or the basting spray. When you're making a bag, and you want to hold certain parts of the bag down as well, you can use some of these products for that. Will help.
Mm-hmm.
Like the steam a seam stuff would work really well with
Mm-hmm.
that. But if you're making a bag that's going to be quilted, like oftentimes they tell you to quilt the fabric first before you cut it for the bag. So you're making a sandwich. Well, the basting spray will work for that too. So there is use for these products there. So we just stuck it to you with all of that. And
Yeah, it's things that you didn't uses for things that you didn't really think of type of thing. It's like
yep,
the steam seam and stuff like that. A lot of people wouldn't think to use it, like to
no,
stick down a zipper or something like that. And it makes things a lot
a
easier.
lot easier. Yeah. I think next time I do a zipper, I'll use some steam seam on it. Try that because it works better than pins because
Yeah.
the pins get in your way.
Yeah,
You know.
and actually you can your zipper goes in really nice and straight when you do that.
So there you go. So everything you may have already known, maybe you didn't, but we just stuck it to you. So that's it for us today. Hope you got something useful out of this. And if you know of other products or things that we've never heard of, which is a very good possibility, please feel free to put them in the comments below. Maybe there's some other things there that we'll find uses for too that we didn't know you could use. Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Not really.
No, we want to run off and start playing with our new phones
Yeah.
and everything. Okay, so next week, hopefully, all goes well. The So Chatty episode will be all about Kawartha quilting, and we'll see you next week, if not before. Say goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye, Walter.